The Iran-Iraq War, a conflict lasting 8 years from 1980 to 1988, was the main component of Iraq's downfall. With thousands of casualties, the illegal use of chemical warfare, and major economic losses, it paved a path of instability that proved dominance in a country that was but a shadow of its former glory. Saddam Hussein became president of Iraq in July 1979 after he forced Ahmad al-Bakr to resign from the presidency. That same year, the Islamic Revolution in Iran ended with the fleeing of the Shah, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi and his family, the complete end of monarchy in Iran, and Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, a Shia cleric, as the sole leader. It left the Shias dominating the population over a small percentile of Sunnis. The main difference between Shia and Sunni is that Shias believe Prophet Muhammad's successor should be someone in his bloodline, while Sunnis believed that a God-fearing individual who would follow the Prophet's customs was acceptable. Saddam Hussein claimed that the dispute over the waterway that connected Iran and Iraq, the Shatt al-Arab, needed to be settled, but it was because he felt threatened that the Shia movement would spur an uprising in Iraq's own Shia population. Since Hussein's power rested partly upon Iraq's Sunni minority population, he sent out the order and the invasion of Iran began on September 22, 1980. During the invasion, Iraq's initial attacks succeeded in capturing several hundred square kilometers of Iranian territory, destroying an oil refinery in Abadan, and laying siege to Mehran. Iran's Air Force, in retaliation, bombed Iraq's military and economic targets a day after the invasion. Iraq then captured the city of Khorramshahr during a battle, losing an estimate of 6,000 troops, with Iranian casualties ranging up to 70,000. Therefore, the city earned the name of the City of Blood based off the brutality and violent conditions. Iran invaded a force of 20,000 to 30,000 troops across Baminsher River around Abadan 5 days after the invasion. The main attack launched by the Iranian Air Force, who carried out airstrikes against enemy troops between the river and the east bank of Karun. With over 6,000 dead and about 15,000 taken as prisoners, Iraq abandoned their heavy weaponry and fled across the river on makeshift pontoon bridges and rafts. Over the course of a little more than a week, Iran liberated the city of Bostan using human wave attacks and their offensive attacks for the first time in the war. This enabled Iran to eliminate an important supply route, which was extremely critical as Iraq didn't have enough soldiers in the front line. A major Iranian military operation in late March 1982 had constant launches of human wave attacks, all composed of 1,000 fighters, and after heavy Iraqi losses, Saddam Hussein ordered a retreat on the 28th. There seemed to be a turning point in the war since the liberation of Khorramshahr in April 24, 1982. Iran successfully pushed Iraqi troops back across the border, evicting them from South Iran, capturing about 15,000 to 19,000 troops, and a substantial amount of military hardware that lay abandoned in Khorramshahr. A year later, in 1983, Operation Before the Dawn was launched. The goal was to seize Iraqi territory in the Amara area as it disrupted the enemy troops and supply movement from Baghdad to Basra. An estimated 60,000 Iraqi troops and 120,000 Iranian troops were lost by the end of the operation, an operation that ultimately failed due to the use of extensive human wave attacks and the deployment of Iraqi Air Force that bombarded Iranian formation. Additionally, the Iraqi Navy deployed as a diversion, destroying Iranian patrol crafts in Iran's port of Khormuz and the clearing of minefields and breaching Iraqi anti-tank mines surrounding Basra. 7 more Dawn operations were launched after Before the Dawn, with Dawn 3 being the worst defeat and Dawn 8 being the biggest success. In Dawn 3, Iraqis counterattacked and captured Iran's Mehran for the second time, attacking with chemical warfare and conducting airstrikes against 50,000 Iranian forces lodged in the mountainous terrain between Mehran, Deloran, and Elam. Dawn 8, an operation vital in the First Battle of Al-Fa, was successful in capturing the Al-Fa Peninsula and cutting off Iraq from having access to the Persian Gulf in the process. Kuwait, growing worried, increased its support of Iraq once its counterattack proved useless, and the attempt at retaking the peninsula failed despite having the extensive firepower in chemical warfare. The U.S. State Department stopped the flow of American arms to Iran by creating Operation Staunch in 1983. It added to their frustration due to the hostage crisis in Tehran after the former Shah of Iran fled to the States, resulting in the capture of 66 U.S. embassy members and an embargo placed on the new government of Iran, which loosened after hostages were released the day of Ronald Reagan's inauguration. After countless operations, the U.S. Navy force attack on Iran platforms on October 1987 being one of many, the war was coming to an end, yet leaving bloody footprints in the process. It was only months later when a massacre against the Iraqi Kurds, known as Bloody Friday, occurred. The attack killed an estimated 3,200 and 5,000 people and injured between 7,000 and 10,000 in the city of Halabja in southern Kurdistan. Most were civilians. Almost a month later, the Second Battle of Al-Fa commenced, resulting in a major Iraqi victory in 1988. With the estimated use of 100 tons of chemical agents, chaos reigned within the 15,000 Iranian defenses. Within 35 hours, the peninsula was secured, and much of the Iranians' equipment was captured intact. Within 48 hours, all the Iranian forces had been either killed or cleared from the Al-Fa Peninsula, most retreating via pontoon. Coincidentally, the day after, U.S. forces attacked within Iranian territorial waters, destroying their navy in retaliation for the Iranian mining of the Persian Gulf and the subsequent damage done to an American warship. The Iranian leadership realized they wouldn't be able to defend Iranian territory in the event of a renewed massive Iraqi invasion, whereby it'd be impossible to expel the Iraqis for a second time. They suffered many economic and material losses, and thus a compromise was established, and they welcomed the ceasefire. Iran and Iraq accepted the UN Security Council Resolution 598, and the war ended as a stalemate on July 20, 1988, with minor operations conducted late 1988 and mid-1989 to protect Kuwait-owned tankers and US-flagged oil tankers from Iran. Yet only 2 years later, Saddam Hussein ordered the invasion of Kuwait in April 1990, and after 2 days of brutal combat, Kuwait's forces were overwhelmed and they fled to Saudi Arabia. The US gave Hussein until January 15, 1991 to order his troops back to Iraq, but Hussein was relentless. So on January 17, Operation Desert Storm, quickly followed by Desert Saber, began. Over the course of 10 hours, as Iraqi troops retreated back from Kuwait via Highway 80, scores of U.S. Air Force, Marine aircrafts, and U.S. Navy pilots attacked the convoy, hitting the front and rear of the group and trapping the troops, vehicles, and military equipment in the middle. Highway 80 was then known as the Highway of Death due to the annihilation of over 10,000 Iraqi troops. There were multiple reasons for the invasion, all unconfirmed, but during an interrogation conducted by the FBI on February 24, 2004, Hussein stated that Kuwait was stealing Iraqi oil using the practice of slant drilling and that they had admitted to have taken only 2.5 billion barrels. Many people were found celebrating after Hussein was caught by U.S. forces almost a decade after the Kuwait invasion, tried and evicted for his crimes against humanity, and was eventually executed in 2006. However, peace and tranquility didn't linger for long. There were appearances of rebel and terrorist groups wreaking terror and havoc, most prominently ISIS for their extremist acts, as Iraq plunged into despair, with an estimated 20 to 25% of its total population living below the line of poverty and drowned deep in debt. It suffered a financial loss of $1.2 trillion, owing approximately $21 billion to the US, Russia, and the UK, amongst many others, and $67 billion to Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, and Jordan. Unstable may be one of the words people use to describe Iraq, but with ISIS defeated, the Sunnis accepting their role as the minority against the Shia majority, and oil production rates rising again, Iraq seems to be on the mend. As an anonymous author quotes, "You can't reach what's in front of you until you let go of what's behind you."